Emergency teams in Pakistan are scrambling to reach people trapped under rubble after an earthquake leveled dozens of homes. At least 20 people have been confirmed dead so far and more than 300 injured in Baluchistan. The Biden administration has hailed the decision of a district judge in Texas to block a near-total ban on abortion in the state. The judge described the law as an offensive deprivation of an important right. A 100-year-old has gone on trial in Germany accused of complicity in the murder of more than 3,500 people at a Nazi concentration camp. He is the oldest defendant ever to be tried for Nazi-era crimes. And the Tanzanian writer Abdul Razak Gurna has won this year's Nobel Prize for Literature. The Swedish Academy said the prize was awarded for the novelist's uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism.
The African Union's top health official, John Nkengasong, says he wants to get the world's first malaria vaccine to African children as soon as possible. In Pakistan, a 5.9 magnitude earthquake in the southwestern part of the country kills at least 20 people. At the United Nations, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres demands evidence from Ethiopia after the country expelled 7 UN workers it accused of wrongdoing. And in Sweden, officials award the Nobel Prize for Literature to Tanzanian writer Abdul Razak Gurna, who wrote about colonialism and the lives of refugees.
We start with breaking news. A magnitude 6.1 earthquake has struck near Tokyo. Officials say there is no tsunami threat. The quake occurred at 10:41 p.m. on Thursday. The focus of the quake was in Chiba Prefecture, east of Tokyo, at a depth of 80 kilometers. The tremor was widely felt in the greater Tokyo area. The quake registered an intensity of up to 5+ on Japan's seismic scale of 0 to 7. Once again, a magnitude 6.1 earthquake has occurred just about 20 minutes ago on Thursday near Tokyo. Officials say there is no threat of a tsunami. There is no threat of a tsunami. The focus of the quake was in Chiba Prefecture, east of Tokyo, at a depth of 80 kilometers. The tremor was widely felt in the greater Tokyo area. Now, the quake registered an intensity of up to 5+ on Japan's seismic scale of 0 to 7. We move now to Sweden, where novelist Abdul Razak Gurna has been named the winner of this year's Nobel Literature Prize.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2021 is awarded to the novelist Abdul Razak Gurna, born in Zanzibar, active in England, for his uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism and the fates of the refugee in the gulf between cultures and continents.
Gurna was born in 1948 and grew up on the island of Zanzibar off the coast of East Africa. He arrived in England as a refugee in the late 1960s. He began writing at the age of 21, and although Swahili was his first language, he wrote in English. He's published 10 novels and a number of short stories, and the theme of the refugees' disruption runs throughout his work. Gurna was a professor of post-colonial literatures at the University of Kent in Canterbury until his recent retirement. Japan's new Prime Minister Kishida Fumio is working on ties with Russia. He held talks by phone with President Vladimir Putin for the first time since taking office. They agreed to continue talks aimed at a peace treaty. Japan and Russia never signed one after World War II because of a dispute over 4 Russian-held islands.
I confirmed with the President that we will push ahead with peace treaty negotiations based on existing agreements between our countries, including the one we reached in Singapore in 2018.
Kishida says the government maintains a consistent policy of concluding a peace treaty through resolution of the issue of attribution of the 4 disputed islands. Russia controls the islands, Japan claims them. The Japanese government maintains the islands are an inherent part of Japan's territory. It says the islands were illegally occupied after World War II. In 2018, then Prime Minister Abe Shinzo and President Putin agreed to accelerate negotiations on a peace treaty based on a 1956 joint declaration. The declaration stated 2 of the 4 islands would be handed over to Japan on the conclusion of a bilateral peace treaty. Kishida told Putin he wants to solve the dispute without leaving it to the next generation. They agreed to meet in person at an early date. Moving now to Taiwan, where President Tsai Ing-wen has met with a group of French senators and former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott. She thanked them for their country's concern about peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. The French delegation is made up of 4 senators led by former Defense Minister Alain Richard. Tsai told them she was extremely moved they'd visited despite pressure. China had strongly objected.
I'm grateful that France takes interest in the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and supports our bid to join international organizations.
Richard said Taiwan has been making great contributions in many areas, including the economy, technology, and public health. He said that's an important reason France supports it. Abbott is in Taiwan to attend an international forum. Tsai met him separately. She stressed her commitment to joining the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership.
We recently made an official application to join the TPP. We want to continue to strengthen trade ties with Australia and the rest of the world.
I can't think of a stronger signal of democracy standing shoulder to shoulder with Taiwan than Taiwan's accession to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I do hope that your application will be welcomed by its existing members.
The partnership consists of 11 nations. China has also applied to join. The meetings in Taiwan come at a time when China has been sending military planes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. In other news, a U.S. federal judge has ordered the temporary suspension of a Texas law that bans nearly all abortions. The law took effect last month. It prohibits women from ending a pregnancy once cardiac activity is detected in the fetus. That's usually around the 6-week mark. The Biden administration is challenging the constitutionality of the law. A federal judge granted an injunction to stop it from being enforced while the lawsuit proceeds. In his ruling, the judge called the law an offensive deprivation of an important right. The White House applauded the ruling. It says it's an important step toward restoring the rights of women. U.S. media say the state of Texas will appeal. The abortion issue is highly divisive, and this law has sparked backlash. Critics worry it'll roll back rights granted by the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision. That case is often credited with legalizing abortion nationwide. Pakistan's military is searching for survivors of a deadly earthquake that struck while most people were sleeping. The U.S. Geological Survey said the magnitude 5.9 quake shook the province of Baluchistan shortly after 3 a.m. Thursday. The quake's focus was 9 kilometers below ground and its epicenter about 97 kilometers east of the provincial capital, Quetta. Authorities say at least 20 people are dead, including women and children. They say more than 300 people are being treated at hospitals for injuries. Local media say crews are attempting to rescue people who remain trapped under collapsed roofs and walls. New coronavirus infections have continued to decline in the weeks since Japan lifted its state of emergency. Now officials want to further ease restrictions on social activities. The government is testing ways to increase the number of travelers and spectators at sporting events. Tokyo reported 143 new cases on Thursday. That's 75 fewer than the same day last week. At a meeting of experts monitoring the situation in Tokyo, the medical system alert level was lowered for the first time in about 10 months.
We will continue promoting the vaccine rollout and antibody cocktail treatments. We will also work to curtail people's movements at night to prevent a rebound in infections while supporting a return to normal daily life and economic activity.
Authorities are considering ways to safely ease restrictions. They're trying out a so-called package system that identifies people who pose a low risk of spreading the coronavirus. Typically, these are people who've received 2 vaccine doses or have tested negative. The system was trialed at a J-League professional soccer game on Wednesday. The maximum capacity for the event was set at 10,000, but around 1,800 more spectators were allowed in after producing proof they were fully vaccinated or had tested negative within 3 days of the game. A Tokyo travel agency is also participating in the government's experiment. Preparations are underway to start accepting tour reservations later this month using the system. The government plans to include other areas depending on the trial results. Next, music lovers are mourning the death of one of Japan's best-known composers. Sugiyama Koichi worked in diverse genres. He's known internationally for scoring the Dragon Quest video game series. Sugiyama died of septic shock on September 30th. He was 90. He was born in Tokyo and began his career as a composer while working as a director for Fuji TV. Sugiyama wrote music for many anime shows and video games. He began working on Dragon Quest when it began in 1986 and continued until the 11th entry in the series more than 30 years later. One of his game themes was played at the opening ceremony for the Tokyo Olympics. In 2016, Guinness World Records recognized Sugiyama as the oldest video game music composer. The game company Square Enix said Sugiyama's last project was the 12th entry in the Dragon Quest series. An online statement from the firm expressed sadness about his death, but said the Dragon Quest music will live on forever in people's memories. It's a long way back to their native Australia, but nearly 24 emus have escaped from a tourist farm in southwestern Japan. Local residents noticed the birds roaming around outside the farm in the city of Kikuchi on Thursday morning. City officials discovered about 20 of the farm's 54 emus had escaped. Members of a local brigade and others tracked down the large flightless birds, but one died during capture. 5 were still on the loose as of 5 p.m. Searchers say they'll resume their hunt on Friday morning. The farm opened last December on the site of a former elementary school. The officials say emus are normally gentle and rarely threaten people, but they're calling on residents to keep their distance from the birds. People in parts of southern China are dealing with heavy rain as a powerful storm inches closer to the region. Our meteorologist Jonathan Oh has more for there and elsewhere in our World Weather Report.
Hello, we have an intensifying tropical system that's located south of China and is making way toward the north, but ahead of it, seeing plenty of activity into Vietnam. Some locations reporting more than 300 millimeters of rainfall in just a 24-hour period. And that's not the only tropical system we're looking at. Toward the east of the Philippines, 2 of them. Also something that we'll be watching out for as we go through the next few days. Look at the forecast for the next 48 hours. Plenty of heavy rain to Vietnam, also to the southern coast of China. And we are talking about some intense rainfall that could lead to some flooding. Some locations can receive up to 300 millimeters of rainfall, especially closer toward Hong Kong and areas to the west. And so, yeah, you need to be on the lookout as this storm comes into the area. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, it felt a lot cooler, about a good 5 degrees cooler in Tokyo compared to Wednesday for the daytime high. And over into Saitama Prefecture, about 10 degrees cooler than what they saw compared to Wednesday. Now, up toward the north, we had a frontal boundary along with some snow reported in portions of Hokkaido. Rain will be in the forecast as we go through Friday as that front pushes on through. Tokyo is back to the warm weather pattern. We're going to be near 30 degrees coming up for Friday, Saturday, and even into Sundays. Sapporo will be into the low 20s for the weekend. Osaka and Fukuoka, you've been warm. You're going to stay that way as we go through the next few days. On the other side of the Pacific, keeping an eye on what's happening down to the south and east, we're over into Alabama. This low-pressure system has been hanging around there, causing some flash flood emergencies at times late Wednesday night going into Thursday. So that's still of concern, the south and east dealing with this particular system. Colder air coming in from the north and west, so the northwestern areas looking at highs only into the teens with snow into the Rockies possible. So be on the lookout for that. Even LA also seeing a high of only 19 coming up on Friday. That's the look at your forecast. Hope you have a good day wherever you are.